welcome back to the Customer Obsession Conference as part of Internet Retailing Expo. So we have a really interesting, intriguing panel discussion coming up, all around crypto and how that can kind of help engage consumers and also give them a convenient offering as well. I think we've heard a lot about crypto over the last couple of years. I think anyone that hasn't heard of Bitcoin has probably been kind of in a coma or living in the dark ages. But crypto has so much more potential than that. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce the panel today. So we have Sean McKay, who is the operations for CoinPayments, and we have David Cassie, the founder of Numundo, Sampo, I'm not going to even try to pronounce that surname, forgive me, who's the COO at Coinmotion, and Nicholas Prutin, who's the ambassador for AGX Pay. So without further ado, I will hand over so we can do formal introductions and leave you in the capable hands of our panel. Round of applause for them.
Welcome everyone, my name is Christina, and I am the creative strategist for CoinPayments. I am very happy to be here today. I am excited to moderate this panel and to welcome you to this event. Speaking on behalf of CoinPayments, we have Sean McKay. Speaking on behalf of Coinmotion, we have Sampo. And on behalf of AGX, we have Nicholas Crowder. Welcome, guys. So, I know that a lot of you might or might not have ever heard of Bitcoin, and we're here to tell you about what cryptocurrencies are and how they integrate with the e-commerce space. About a decade ago, a phenomenon by the name of blockchain began a craze, and this craze goes by the name of Bitcoin. Since then, hundreds of millions of people have begun transacting with cryptocurrencies, and particularly over the last 3 years where we've seen the most adoption. Retailers are increasingly finding ways to stay on top of the ever-changing landscape of e-commerce, and consumers are finding ways to spend this newfound currency, crypto. We're excited to talk about this today because cryptocurrencies breaks many barriers for e-commerce merchants. And to explain a bit more about what these barriers are and how we can conquer them, we have this great panel here today. And the panelists here today envision a future where Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are not only an alternative mean to transaction, rather the only way of transacting. So Sean, would you mind telling our audience a little bit about what crypto is and how it differs from traditional currencies?
Sure. Well, cryptocurrency in its most basic form is a digital currency that's secured by cryptography. Some characteristics that are pretty unique to cryptocurrencies are that they're decentralized. There's no one governing body, like a bank or a government, that controls everything. And therefore it allows peer-to-peer transactions without any kind of centralized middleman.
Yeah, to put in like more simplistic ways, like what is cryptocurrency? When you think about internet and what it makes possible, is that like free sharing of information, free and instant sharing of information over the internet. And cryptocurrency is like it's kind of an upgrade to the internet layer, offers instant value transfer over the internet from one person to another.
Yeah. In addition to all of that, I would say that something that cryptocurrencies bring to the table that was previously not as readily available, if available at all, within traditional finance, is a level of transparency. With the exception of certain privacy-based cryptocurrencies such as Monero, you have visibility into where the money is going and what transactions are actually taking place, which is a very, very important thing that came out of the creation of Bitcoin, which was a direct result of the 2008 financial crisis that we saw. So, whereas before we had to kind of take it on faith, now we can follow the money in a much more honest way.
So talking about following the money, how has mass adoption happened and so far, and how are masses adapting to this new way of spending and earning?
Yeah, well, there's generally, in its 10 years of existence, the adoption has grown quite significantly, but there's still a long way to go. Obviously, in different markets, I think right now probably the highest market of adoption is the remittances and global money transfers, where money transactions settle in minutes rather than days. The gaming industry has also seen a pretty high adoption rate. Players all over the world are able to make deposits via cryptocurrency without any kind of pegging of the platform as a high-risk merchant by the banks and the credit card companies. And also the adult space has seen quite a bit of adoption just due to the privacy nature of cryptocurrency.
Yeah. What about mass adoption is that you can't really speak about mass adoption yet. Speaking from the brokering side of view, we are the biggest brokering service offer or brokering service offer in the Finland, and we have about 55,000 Finnish customers in our Coinmotion platform. That's about 1% of the Finnish population, and I could say that in Finland the overall knowledge about the cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin is relatively high compared to the global scale. So we are talking about only 1% of Finnish population overall, which is like rather small, and I think like we have to go on for like 5 or 10 years from now to actually see numbers like 20 or 25% of mass adoption. It's like internet in the early 90s, really. Like nobody really knew what it was. They heard maybe the word internet. They really didn't know how to use it for. Most people said that, like for example, that email would be like a tool that they would never use because we had faxes back then. But then again, the shift in like the overall mentality about this new thing about the internet. It's just like these real life use cases that people just start using little by little, and then the mass adoption follows this.
And yeah, you're 100% right in that we barely scratched the surface of what mass adoption looks like. 2017 really, although while still quite controversial, did bring a lot of credibility and validity to the entire movement of decentralized asset ownership. And so sort of the next stage of that, and part of the reason I think all of us are here at IRX is to bring that cryptocurrency message to the masses en masse and help them understand how this can help grow and strengthen their businesses.
Those are all very great points. Touching back on Sean mentioning earlier about the settlements being received instantly versus days sometimes. What other benefits does an e-commerce business owner can have in accepting cryptocurrencies versus traditional payment methods, do you believe?
If I could. I think it's if you look at traditional investing, if I were to say to somebody, put all your eggs in one basket, they would kind of look at me like I was a fool. Cryptocurrencies allow you to distribute the wealth of your business into a variety of different assets that have a variety of different values. Something like AGX Pay, which is backed by Silver. Silver has a very, very long history of being a good store of value and a good store of wealth with a pretty strong purchasing power throughout history. So it makes sense that perhaps businesses would want to store some of their assets or some of their wealth in something like AGX. Conversely, Bitcoin as well has gained an excellent reputation for being a store of value. So for assets that don't need to see very fast liquidity necessarily, like it may make sense to have long-term holdings in this. By diversifying your wealth, you make your business more global and more resilient at large. And I think that is a huge opportunity that merchants have by adopting crypto.
Another thing is of course like the ease of access, like in these developed countries that we probably everybody live in, where we can trust the central banking system and our local banks to actually have a good store for our money and we can access them and so on, but not all around the world the situation is the same. Like there is quite a huge portion of people globally that don't have access to bank accounts. And how could you make global trade or global merchant services to that kind of people who don't really have access to bank accounts? Or the cryptocurrencies kind of tackle that because they don't really they don't care if you have access to bank accounts, because anyone who has access to a smartphone has an access to a Bitcoin wallet per se. So anyone who has access to these crypto funds can then access to your e-commerce stores globally.
Yeah, that's a really great point that you're making there, talking about the unbanked. Just looking at the news, you've seen a ton of initiatives in finding ways to tap into this huge pool of people who are still not at that 21st century level because of their lack of ability to things like bank accounts. So cryptocurrency and blockchain has the potential to bring tremendous good to the world and to the underprivileged, and bring a more balanced economic playing field at large. So yeah, just
not just to those that don't have access to proper banking, but also to those living in a country whose currency is experiencing hyperinflation. They may look for other solutions on where to store their money, so it's not getting devalued every day. And just to touch back on your previous question about adoption, I can speak from CoinPayments' point of view. We're a cryptocurrency payment processor, and we've been around since 2013, and every year our volume has gone up by 10 times. So the adoption rate is increasing quite significantly. Today we have over 2.5 million accounts of users and businesses, and we processed over $1.5 billion of cryptocurrency. And that's just us. There's many other payment providers out there as well.
Touching back on banking the unbanked, which I am actually quite passionate about. Do you guys know that in the UK alone, there are 1.6 million working adults that are underbanked or unbanked completely? 1.7 billion across the world. So as you were saying, cryptocurrencies do help to tap into those pools of people that not necessarily are high risk, but literally lack the banking infrastructure to be able to open up a bank account and become a customer of your online shop. And cryptocurrencies really does help people of that kind. And if we think about the fact that that's a fourth of the world population, that's a massive amount of resource that the cryptocurrency helps us to tap into. Do you guys, by any means, see a way where cryptocurrencies in the near future will dominate online spending, or is that, you believe, still quite a ways away?
Well, personally, I think cryptocurrencies will dominate the world economy in 20 to 30 years. But, well, including that also e-commerce. But there is still, of course, a long way to go, and these kind of changes, like huge changes in like monetary systems, don't happen right away, and there is a lot of stepping stones and points on the roadmap to actually get there. But as we're seeing, like globally, like Strong mentioned about those countries that's whole monetary system is failing and hyperinflating, like Venezuela is the last example of that. People have completely lost their trust in their own country's currency. Luckily, the situation is not bad all around the globe, but the basis of the current monetary system is that it's inflationary monetary system. Cryptocurrencies are fundamentally different, so that Bitcoin is deflationary monetary system, so that there is only limited number of Bitcoins ever created, which is 21 million, which is similar to the gold standard that we used to have until back in 1930s, when the dollar was separated from the gold base. And well, it's kind of a larger topic to start tackling on which one is better, but the inflationary monetary system has its like possible weaknesses of hyperinflation and stuff like that. But yeah, it's quite of a broad question to start tackling in this.
It's quite funny because, especially in Western countries, we tend to have this, not intentional I would say, but we tend to view as the world from a perspective of that won't happen to us. But as we saw in 2008, Venezuela, even France recently with their Yellow Vest movement, is it only takes one economic crisis for all of a sudden people to realize that their capital is in the hands of a very small circle of people, and that they themselves actually don't have that much liberty with their own wealth, and they take it a lot on good faith. And so that's one of the key initiatives cryptocurrency, and we're active in over 102 different countries right now, and so this really goes to sort of validate the idea that people are ready for something different, and they're ready to take control of their own finances and not be dependent on third parties to say, yes, this is accounted for.
Yeah, like you were mentioning, having the currency, your coins backed by silver. I like whenever anybody asks me to explain Bitcoin, I always like to compare it to gold. It's got a lot of the same properties as gold, except it's digital, so you don't have to carry around bars of gold to do, exchange value. But it's decentralized. There's no one governing body for gold. There's a limited supply, so it's deflationary rather than inflationary as we pull it out of the ground.
Yeah, and I think one of the, I know this is coming down a little bit later down the line, but one of the biggest barriers in I think merchants adopting cryptocurrencies is that while volatile price swings can be very attractive to an investor or an investor mentality, when you're doing trade on a regular day-to-day basis and it goes up 40% and great, you don't want to pay your employees. You go down 40% and you just crush your market and you're crying. The when Lambo, when Moon type of meme type experience there. But by having tokenized assets such as silver or petro, as we have seen attempted in Venezuela and other such assets, it allows us to have a more distributed form of wealth and hedge them into several different commodities markets, which I think is a much healthier way of determining wealth.
Absolutely. You touched on volatility, which is something very interesting, I'm sure, for you guys in the audience as well. It seems like a lot of merchants are keeping away from accepting crypto because there is a volatility factor. Just yesterday, we watched Bitcoin jump 22-something%, which can be a good thing, but it can also go the other way around. So how do businesses like CoinPayments, for instance, help the merchant to be sure that one Bitcoin today is worth one Bitcoin tomorrow?
Yeah, well, as a merchant accepting cryptocurrency, the prices are definitely volatile, and you don't want to be gambling with your sales revenue, right? Like there's a story from before, somebody bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin, $40 back then, and then last year it was like 40 million. So nobody wants to be that person. But what you can do right away to mitigate the volatility is you can settle your cryptocurrency payments directly into traditional money like euros or pounds, US dollars. We actually use Coinmotion right here to do settlements into euro. And then if you want to stay within the realm of cryptocurrency and you don't want to go through the banks and all the red tape and the days of wait and the higher fees, then there's other cryptocurrencies called stable coins, which are basically pegged to the value of the US dollar, the euro, whatever it may be.
And it's like to give the merchant the opportunity to choose if they want to do the settlement to fiat currencies right away, which eliminates the volatility risks completely if the settlement is done right away when the payment is received, or if the merchant knows a little bit more about cryptocurrencies, maybe wants to keep part of their stock as cryptos, then why not keep it that way as well. But the option has to be for the merchant to choose whether he or she wants to do the settlement right away to fiat or if he doesn't.
And speaking to how CoinPayments actually enables merchants, your platform is quite large. You have a quite large body of merchants on your platform, and just by being able to list with you guys, you give thousands of merchants access to these currencies, and it's a two-sided thing because it benefits us and it benefits the merchants simultaneously, and you guys act as that bridge. Because the first generation of crypto was really complicated. I'm sure there's probably a couple blockchain enthusiasts here in the audience, and if you guys have ever had to use a decentralized exchange, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like pulling teeth. It was terrible. And so the emergence of platforms like CoinPayments create that simplicity that we're all familiar with, that feels very comfortable for us, and it makes it an easier process to adopt these new economic models.
Yeah, the ease of use is definitely one of the hindrances right now to adoption. It's going to take a little bit more time, but it's generally going to become easier and easier.
Yeah, and by the time, like over time, it's gonna be like digital currencies, cryptocurrency is gonna be much stable as well. Like it's gonna require a couple of bull runs at least. For example, for the Bitcoin, that should raise its value up to hundreds of thousands, or even to millions of dollars. Because after that, the overall total value of the asset is so high that the procentual changes in the value will not be as big as they are today. But if we look at the past bubbles of the Bitcoin, the first bubble from 2011 or 2010, the price rallied from basically from zero to over $16 per Bitcoin, which is like in percentages is like tens of thousands of percents. Back in 2013, it rose from a couple of hundreds of dollars to $1,000, little below that, or that. It's still 1,000%, but it's not that much. And back in 2017, again, it rose from about $600 or $700 to almost $20,000. But the percentual increase in price is constantly lower and lower, even though the actual dollar amounts of the price are bigger than before. But the percentual price change is constantly lower with each bull run and each market cycle, which is like important. Like if you are a merchant and you take a product and sell it for $10, but then when the settlement happens from the cryptocurrencies and the price drops to $8, it's 20% drop, but it's $2 drop. But then if you sell $100 of a product, then the price drops $2, it's $98. So it's important to remember these actual numerical differences and then the percentual differences in prices. And by the time goes on and the cryptocurrencies increase in value, the percentual changes become much more lower, and the actual risk of accepting these cryptos as a payment become also much lower.
So I understand through this panel that even though it's most often assumed that cryptocurrencies are an investment, what they actually are is they are cryptocurrencies. In fact, meant to be spent. And there are some incentives for accepting cryptocurrencies in your business. One of the most important ones that will probably resonate with you all the most would be no chargebacks. And I'm going to have Sean let you guys know how CoinPayments manages all that.
We manage the no chargebacks?
Yeah. Or how cryptocurrencies allow for no chargeback and how CoinPayments integrates all that.
Right. Well, it goes back a bit to what I was saying earlier, that you're doing peer-to-peer transactions. I'm giving you gold. I'm not giving gold to the bank, who's then going to give it to you. So there's no opportunity to take that money back, put it on hold, freeze it, whatever you're going to do. You're doing a direct transfer from a person to a person, right? So therefore, that eliminates chargebacks. It's as easy as that.
That's one of many benefits that people and merchants can see. Additionally, changes in fee structures can actually be beneficial if you're with the right currency. For example, thanks to you guys and being listed on the CoinPayments platform, using AGX for merchants, actually they experience zero fees whatsoever. So, comparatively to the fee structures that you see in traditional finance and things like Visa and MasterCard, it can be quite advantageous in the long run.
Especially if you're considered a high-risk merchant. Pretty average fees of 3 to 5%, but when you're a high-risk merchant like the gaming or the adult space, you're looking at 8+% per transaction.
Any emerging market, really. Even being from Canada myself, we recently legalized cannabis, and finding payment processors for that industry alone is quite difficult. So when it comes to emerging technologies and emerging markets, crypto presents a unique opportunity to have that payment processing.
Does anyone in our audience have any questions for the panelists? By a raise of hands? You over there? You're gonna get a microphone, just hold on.
Hi there. A minute ago you said that one of the benefits with cryptocurrency and not having any payments involved is that it's peer-to-peer. But obviously with traditional payment methods like cash or bank transfers, you get quite a lot of fraud calls with that.
Could you speak up a little?
Sorry, traditionally with payments like cash or bank transfers, you get a lot of fraud involved with things like that. So can you just expand a little bit on how cryptocurrency protects people from fraud a bit more?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
The fraud is that every transaction is like cryptographically validated, and anyone can validate any transaction ever made in the. If we talk about Bitcoin, we can go back to the blockchain and check every transaction ever made since the birth of the Bitcoin network back in 2010. So it's. I'm not gonna start explaining how the cryptography works under the hood, but to use an easy example is that when you use paper money, it's counterfeitable and stuff like that, but you can't do that for cryptocurrencies or anything like that. And also like when the fiat system is in place, there are these central players that have to work as middlemen for your payments. As easily explained, the cryptocurrencies work that everyone who participates in the maintenance of the network can see every transaction and prevent frauds like that. If one actor in the network tries to do something fraudulent, every other actor in the network can see that, hey, this is not alright, and don't even try to do that, or we reject you from this system.
The short answer to your question, let's take Bitcoin as an example. If I send you Bitcoin and it ends up in your account, then it's yours. There's no one to take it back. There's no one to reverse that transaction, to create a chargeback or anything. So there's really no opportunity for fraud unless you're talking about a different kind of fraud.
Well, even speaking to that, again, going back to following the money, right? Things like embezzlement and and of such, it becomes very difficult because you can see exactly where everything is going, right? If a government was to like, hey, we sold arms to a company on the blacklist using a country on the blacklist using something like Bitcoin or Monero, let's say, maybe not Monero. You can refer back to that and say, well, no, actually, yes, this did occur. So hiding certain criminal activities becomes very difficult. Bitcoin does provide a level of anonymity, which is attractive to some people, but it's pseudo-anonymity. That's a difficult word.
Every transaction is reported on a blockchain, and I'm not sure you guys are familiar with what a blockchain is, but it is a public, immutable ledger. So anyone can go at any point and check their transaction, and there is no way to change that, and that is the number one way in which blockchain with cryptocurrencies prevent fraud. I know that there was a few other people. Does that answer your question, by the way? Lovely. I know you had a question as well. Your microphone's coming up.
Hello. Hi. I wanted to ask you if you can mention some concrete examples of a retailer that decided to use CoinPayments. What was before and what was after? How much did their revenue increase, and how much less chargebacks they had, and so on?
Sure. I can tell you about some of the larger retailers that use CoinPayments right now. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Overstock. I guess they're more of a North American company, but they are a big retailer in the e-commerce space. They're also one of the first to embrace Bitcoin and start accepting payments in Bitcoin through a different payment company, but recently switched over to CoinPayments, and now they accept payments in all the different coins we support, which is over 1,200 at the moment. As far as their volumes go, that's what you were asking. When you decide to accept cryptocurrency, it opens up to a different market of people that are holding cryptocurrency and have nowhere to spend it. So you're tapping into a new untouched market by adding this new payment method, as well as I can tell you about some of the other retailers we have in the adult space.
It makes for a great use case. I
no
think.
space. Yeah. Well. So there is like the pseudo level of anonymity that Nick was mentioning. You can see, exactly which account holds how much Bitcoin and every single transaction of Bitcoin since the beginning of Bitcoin time, but you don't know who owns that account. So that's the pseudo anonymity. So yeah, I mean, customers who shop at adult sites, let's say, they kind of like that side of the cryptocurrency characteristic.
Yeah. Does that answer your question? Does anybody else have any questions in the audience? No such thing as a silly question.
A question around e-commerce retailers. Is there a particular model that they go for, linking into what you said about, do they tend to settle and change into euros straight away, or do they tend to keep it in crypto?
Yeah, so we have a large spectrum of different kinds of merchants. It started out with like in 2013, it started out with those in the crypto space. They were selling mining equipment to computer equipment to mine coins. I won't get into that. Anyway, so they were happy to accept cryptocurrency and keep it in cryptocurrency because they were collecting it, right? And then it progressed into more global internet services like hosting and VPS, that kind of thing. So they're taking payments from around the world. They don't care where the client's based. They're just providing the service on the internet. Those clients are a bit of both. They like to keep it in Bitcoin, but they can take any of the other coins, get it converted back to Bitcoin. And then recently, all the new merchants, they like to have it settled into fiat right away. Fiat is traditional currency, like pounds and euros. Just to avoid the volatility, keep the accounting easy, and
Which sounds all very complicated, but it's all done within the platform. And that takes me back to my last question on our last minute here on the panel. I would like a short answer as to a piece of advice that merchants can walk away with as to how to begin accepting cryptocurrencies in their store today.
Well, I would suggest you download our app or any other cryptocurrency app for that matter, just to familiarize yourself with how to transact cryptocurrency. It's a little bit different. Rather than pulling a payment off a card, you're pushing a payment to someone's address. So anyway, QR codes, long addresses, sending and receiving coins. Get familiar with that. Or stop by our booth, which is just outside Theater 1, and we can have a talk, get a bit more education, and get you well on your way.
I guess that comes down to understanding your customers. So if you want to start accepting cryptocurrencies, you should kind of understand your customers that are using cryptocurrencies, and that would mean trying yourself to use cryptocurrencies. Try to buy a little bit of amount, try to send it somewhere, try to send it to your friend, and actually get a hold of the, like Steve said, get a hold on how the system actually works, how the cryptocurrencies actually work, so you can get a better idea on how your customers use the system.
Yeah, and in all things, I think education is probably one of the most important things you should do. You should not just blindly take Bitcoin because Bitcoin is hot. Go and get a fundamental understanding of what Bitcoin is before you accept it, and learn about the currencies that you're accepting and why they might be right for your business. Would love to have a conversation with people in the audience about the power of modern silver money over at the D60 Pavilion booth with CoinPayments there. AGX Pay is set up there, and yeah, again, education is the key to most things, I think. And once you become, truly solid in your understanding of cryptocurrency payments and the solutions available, I think sky's the limit.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Nicholas. And thank you, Sampo. If anybody has any more will to learn more about cryptocurrencies, we're also going to be hosting a panel tomorrow, I believe, right here. And it's going to be talking about the evolution of e-commerce and how blockchain plays into that. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good rest of the day.